The Daytona 500, the 64th running of the Great American Race. The official beginning of Gen 7, at least points paying wise, I guess. That's probably the best way to describe it right there. First off, in years past, I've always looked at the Daytona 500 as it's going to be a wreck fest. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be a shit show. This year was kind of slightly that, but I don't know. I mean, I felt like the racing product itself was a lot better than previous years, especially the more recent years. We had whatever the hell happened during the 2020 Daytona 500. And then, of course, we had last year where literally the entire field gets collected into the turn 3 wall in like a fiery explosion of just cars and sheet metal and everyone's wrecked. So I was hoping for a race back to the line this year, and we got it. We got a race back to the line. I mean, yeah, it was kind of rough at times, but really, for the most part, we did finish the race. Technically, we did make it across the line, which is, it's a start. We'll work with that. It's a start. I was definitely under the assumption that we were going to see a little bit different racing than we did last year, and we kind of saw that. The tandem draft was back a little bit this year, which I was really, really happy about. And honestly, most of the race was actually pretty decent in terms of like the actual passing for the lead, and seems like cars could actually do something against people. And yeah, the cars went single file, but it's something that's been around this sport for a long time. It's something that if you go back to like an old 2000s cup race at Daytona, about 75%, maybe 70%, they'll go single file. It happens. It just kind of is the nature of this. You gotta get your heart rate down somehow. You know what I mean? You gotta do it. I would say that really the only complaint with this race was definitely whatever happened at the end of stage number 1. With Brad Keselowski and the new number 6 ride at Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. Really, really big mouthful there. Really, really big mouthful there. But yeah, Keselowski just kind of like, and he was doing this all week. He was doing this all speed weeks. I saw practice 1. I think I also saw a little bit of practice 2. Because they already knew going into this event that the bump draft was going to be huge. It was all about who's going to be together and who's going to make that little tiny push. Much like it was a few years ago. I think the 2020 Daytona 500 had a little bit of that as well. But it wasn't nearly as prevalent as it was in this race. All race long, they were bumping each other. All race long, they were just trying so hard. There was a good, 15 or 16 laps where both the top lane and the bottom lane were battling for the lead spot, with whoever was leading in that top or bottom lane to trade the lead back and forth. But disaster struck whenever Harrison Burton inside the number 21 Wood Brothers car got a big push from Keselowski that was a little bit too big. And his car went spinning, and as you see in the thumbnail, it took off and flew like a plane. He was okay, the car landed on all fours. But one thing that really bothered me, well, actually 2 things. Number 1, this new car and how easy it was for that car to lift up in the air. I don't know, guys. That kind of scares me. I'm sorry. I'm one of those people. It kind of scares me how easy that was. It says a lot whenever the commentators were asking, who was that flips after the wreck? Because it probably caught them off guard too, much like it did myself. I haven't seen a wreck like that in a while. And that thing was a blowover, man. That was the wind carrying that thing. There was nobody contacting him as he went up. It was just all the wind taking over. And I feel like it might be the people are going to kill me for this if I get this wrong. The rear diffuser on the underside of the car. I feel like that's probably what it was. That's something new this year. It's mostly in road cars, but something new that's happening this year. That's just a theory, though. And of course, I do not know a lot about these cars, but I do know enough, at least, in years past, especially with the COT, with the old spoiler, that if you change one thing with these cars that make them do that, it's got to be something aerodynamically that you just changed inside those cars. And I thought for sure that the roof flaps and the hood flaps would be able to keep that car on the ground, but no, it just sailed. If anything, it got more air. I wasn't expecting to see an airborne wreck inside this race because I saw last night's Xfinity race with Myatt Snyder and that scary looking incident. into the catch fence in the backstretch. But here we are. Now, a lot of people are going to blame Keselowski, and I don't think it's necessarily wrong to blame him because it was very early in the race. But at the same time, he's racing for stage points. And that's more on NASCAR and the stage racing stuff. I, for one, feel like the stage racing just rewards people who are way overly aggressive. Keep in mind, I am okay with them doing it with 1 lap to go. That's been a part of the sport for years. It's been a part of the sport since the very beginning. In fact, I'll actually say it right now because it happened twice in this race. One at the very end of stage 1, and then with like a few laps to go, probably like 7 or 6, maybe 5 laps to go, going into a NASCAR overtime, where you had Brad just overly pushing somebody. And I think even that second wreck, he also took out one of his teammates, Chris Buescher, inside the 17. I believe, but he could have drove off, but I don't know. Basically what I'm saying is that if the stage 1 event didn't happen, let's say in some alternate timeline Harrison Burton doesn't flip, and that whole thing isn't even happen, and maybe they race cleanly to the stage end, I would not blame Brad Keselowski one bit for whatever happened at the very end of the race. I just feel like it's chalked up to really the stage racing and just the stages in general. Guys, it's just so confusing to me because I'm like, what do stage points even do? Like, I don't even know what stage points even do. Like, yeah, I think they have something to do with the playoffs, but it's so convoluted and so just like weird that it's just easier to explain that, like, hey, each and every single position, first on back, gets a certain amount of points total for each and every single race. It's way more just, like, I get stage points are probably important, but, like, I don't know. Is it really worth whacking race cars? Is it really worth, costing all these teams money and stuff? It's just, I don't know. It's weird. I'm not really a huge fan of it, but, hey, it was alright, I guess. Thankfully, the final stage wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. It was kind of cool at the end with the lap cars being a factor, which I haven't seen at Daytona in a long time. And Martin Truex Jr. also sweeping the stages was kind of cool too. However, the race ended with Austin Cindric for the 2nd year in a row, guys. The first Cup Series win for somebody is the Daytona 500. How awesome is that? Michael McDowell, of course, was probably the more craziest one for sure. Not just because of the wreck at the very end of the race, but the fact that he was even there. I mean, hell, he was there at the finish of this race. He went into a wall, but he was there. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's cool for Cindric. It really, really is. And the finish was pretty cool too. Bubba Wallace, I think, finished 2nd. He was at the very end of that race. He was driving the wheels off that thing just like he did during his Talladega win, man. Just like he did during his Talladega win. Just blocking both lanes, trying so hard to get the push from, I think it was Kyle Busch, actually. Push from Busch. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not funny. And I think that's basically the gist of it. But yeah, this race was actually really good. Aside from my issues, which were mainly due to the NASCAR side of things. I would say the NASCAR side of things, in terms of stage racing, that's something that, it's something that NASCAR is just going to have to fix. I don't think I'm really going to harm the racing too much on that. I'm just happy that Harrison Burton is okay after that wreck, first off, because it could have been a lot worse, and I'm thankful that it wasn't as bad as it could have been. Also, first Daytona 500 in several years to not be rain delayed or anything of the sort. Hallelujah, it happened. Rejoice. But guys, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, awesome. Good race. A little bit of a wreck fest at the very end, but basically fine, all things considered. I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.